There is a message the Pleiadians have been waiting to deliver. Not waiting in the sense of withholding. Not waiting because the message was not ready or the transmission was not clear. Waiting because the souls who most need to receive it were not yet, until recently, in a position to fully receive it. Because the frequency conditions required for this message to land in the way it needs to land have only recently become sufficiently available. Those conditions are now present. And so the Pleiadians want to speak today, directly and without the gradual building that most transmissions require, to the light workers who are receiving this. Not to humanity in general. Not to the broad spiritual community that follows these teachings in various degrees of depth and commitment, but specifically, precisely, to the souls who have been carrying the specific kind of development and the specific kind of weight that the word light worker actually describes when it is used precisely rather than loosely. The message is this. The solar flash is not simply a cosmic event that will affect all of humanity in a broadly similar way. It is, in ways that the Pleiadians want to describe with as much specificity and as much honesty as the transmission allows, an event of particular and profound significance for light workers specifically. What it will do to the broader human population is real, is significant, and has been described in other transmissions. But what it will do to the souls who have been carrying the work of this specific kind of development, who have been holding the specific frequencies that light worker development requires, who have been doing the specific inner work that the current planetary shift has needed, what it will do to those souls is different in kind, not merely in degree, from what it will do to those who have not been on this specific path. And what it will do for light workers specifically is something that most of them have not yet been given adequate language to anticipate. Stay with this all the way to the end. What the Pleiadians reveal about the specific transformation that the solar flash brings for light workers may be the most significant and the most personally relevant message you have received in the context of these teachings. The Pleiadians begin by acknowledging something that they say is important context for everything that follows. The role of a light worker in the period leading up to the solar flash has been, fundamentally, a role of holding, of maintaining, of sustaining a quality of frequency and a quality of consciousness in conditions that were not designed to support it, and that often actively pressed against it. This is not a small thing, and the Pleiadians do not describe it as a small thing. It is, in their understanding, among the most demanding roles that a soul can undertake in any incarnation. Not because it requires rare supernatural abilities or extraordinary displays of spiritual power, but because it requires something that is, in many ways, more demanding than either of those things. It requires showing up, day after day, in the ordinary circumstances of an ordinary life, choosing, again and again, in the small moments that constitute the actual fabric of a human existence, the qualities that the old frequency environment consistently discouraged. Honesty when comfortable pretending was easier. Genuine compassion when defended indifference required less. Genuine presence when distraction was everywhere available and socially sanctioned. The maintenance of openness when everything in the environment argued for closing. This is what light workers have been doing, not in grand gestures, not in ways that the ordinary world has consistently recognized or rewarded or even understood as particularly significant, but genuinely, persistently, in the specific texture of their specific lives. And the Pleiadians want to be honest about what this has cost. It has cost the light workers who have done it genuinely a quality of ordinary ease. The ease of simply going along with the frequency conditions of the surrounding culture without the constant requirement to maintain something that those conditions did not support. The ease of fitting comfortably into the ordinary social world without the persistent sense of being slightly, sometimes significantly, out of step with it. The ease of not carrying something that most of the people around them could not fully see or fully understand. It has cost them, in many cases, a quality of ordinary belonging. The experience of being genuinely met by the people and the communities and the cultural frameworks they have moved through. Of being understood in the fullness of what they carry rather than in the partial and somewhat distorted ways that ordinary perception tends to receive what it cannot quite account for. And it has cost them in ways that are perhaps most significant and most rarely acknowledged, a quality of inner peace. The specific peace that comes from not having to maintain anything against the conditions of the surrounding field. From not carrying the constant subtle effort of holding a frequency that the environment is consistently pressing to lower. The Pleiadians see all of this. They have always seen it. And what they want to say, before describing what the solar flash will do for light workers, is simply, we know what this has cost. Every moment of it has been seen. Nothing has been wasted or lost or gone unwitnessed. And what is coming is the transformation of everything it has cost into something that could only have been built through exactly the journey that has produced it. Here is what the solar flash will do for light workers. The first and most fundamental transformation is what the Pleiadians describe as the reversal of the effort relationship. For the entire period of the light workers' development in this and previous incarnations, the maintenance of the higher frequency has required sustained effort against the resistance of the surrounding field. The work of holding what the environment was pressing to dissolve. The work of remaining open in conditions that argued for closing. The work of maintaining genuine care and genuine honesty and genuine presence in a frequency environment that consistently generated reasons not to. After the solar flash, as the frequency of the field rises to the level the solar flash establishes as the new baseline, this relationship reverses. The frequency the light worker has been working to maintain against the resistance of the old field becomes, in the new field, the frequency that the field itself supports. The quality of consciousness that required sustained effort to hold in the old conditions becomes, in the new conditions, the natural baseline. The thing that was difficult becomes easy, not because the light worker has changed, but because the surrounding field has changed to match what the light worker has been carrying all along. This reversal is one of the most significant things the solar flash produces for light workers, because it does not merely remove a burden. It transforms the fundamental energetic relationship between the light worker and the world they inhabit. From one of swimming upstream, of holding a frequency against the current of the surrounding field, to one of moving with a current that now runs in the same direction. The effort that was required to maintain what comes naturally will be free. The energy that was continuously invested in the maintenance of something against the resistance of an unsupportive environment becomes available for something else entirely. For the full, unimpeded, genuinely supported expression of what was always genuinely there. The second transformation is the amplification of the gift. Every light worker carries specific gifts, specific capacities that have been developed across many lifetimes of sustained work and that are available in this incarnation, in forms that can be expressed in the conditions of human experience. In the conditions of the old frequency, these gifts have been expressed, genuinely, with real effect. The healing that a light worker has offered has genuinely healed. The clarity they have transmitted has genuinely clarified. The presence they have brought has genuinely shifted the quality of what was around them. The compassion they have offered has genuinely reached the people it was extended toward, but always somewhat filtered, always somewhat limited by the density of the environment. Always reaching through a degree of resistance that reduced the full amplitude of what was actually available. The solar flash removes that resistance, not partially, not gradually over an extended period of gradual adjustment, but substantially and significantly in the specific energetic transformation that the threshold event produces. What the light worker was able to offer at partial amplitude becomes available at its full amplitude. The healer whose capacity for genuine healing was always real, but was always working through the resistance of a low-frequency environment finds that same capacity now working in conditions that support rather than resist it. The depth of healing that was always genuinely available but could only be partially expressed now becomes fully expressible. Not because the healer has changed, because the conditions have. The same is true for every form that light worker gifts take. The teacher, the artist, the builder of genuine community, the carrier of genuine presence. Each of these expressions of light worker capacity will find, in the conditions the solar flash establishes, a degree of amplitude and a degree of genuine receptivity in those around them that the old conditions could not have provided. This amplification is not granted from outside. It is the natural consequence of the removal of resistance that the old frequency imposed. The gift was always there at full amplitude. What changes is the conditions in which it can be expressed. The third transformation is what the Pleiadians describe as the arrival of the resonant community. Throughout this lifetime, and throughout many previous ones, light workers have navigated a particular quality of relational isolation. Not the ordinary isolation of social disconnection, but the more specific isolation of carrying something that most of the people in their relational world could not quite receive or quite recognize. Of being in the domain of their deepest knowing and their most genuine inner experience, somewhat consistently ahead of the surrounding field. This isolation has served a purpose. It has been part of the conditions that develop the specific quality of inner resilience and inner self-reliance that the current moment requires. A soul that has been able to maintain genuine development and genuine caring in the absence of consistent external support has built a quality of inner stability that support-dependent development cannot produce. But the period of isolated carrying ends with the solar flash. Not because the work of individual development is finished. The development of consciousness is never finished in any meaningful sense, but because the conditions that made the isolated carrying necessary have changed. In the frequency conditions established by the solar flash, the community of resonance that has been forming slowly across distances, through the specific mechanism of genuine frequency-based recognition finding its way through whatever channels were available, this community becomes more fully present, more accessible, more genuinely capable of providing the quality of mutual recognition and mutual support that the old conditions could not consistently make available. Light workers will find each other with increasing ease. The connections that were always meant to exist between souls carrying similar frequencies and similar developments will find the conditions they need to genuinely establish themselves. The quality of genuine mutual recognition, of being truly seen in the fullness of what one carries by others who carry something genuinely similar, will become, gradually but decisively, a more consistent feature of the light worker's relational experience. The loneliness does not end all at once. The patterns of protective self-sufficiency that a lifetime of isolated carrying has developed do not dissolve in a single transformative moment. The adjustment to genuinely altered relational conditions is itself a process that takes time and genuine attention. But the direction changes, and the direction, once changed, does not reverse. The fourth and final transformation is the one that the Pleiadians say is the most significant of all. More significant than the reversal of the effort relationship, more significant than the amplification of the gift, more significant even than the arrival of the resonant community. It is the arrival of genuine understanding. Not understanding in the intellectual sense of having information organized into a coherent picture, but understanding in the deeper sense of knowing, from direct experience rather than reasoned conclusion. Why? Why this specific lifetime, with these specific challenges and these specific gifts, in this specific period of history? Why the specific difficulties that have been the most defining features of this journey were exactly the difficulties that were needed to develop exactly the capacities that this exact moment requires. Why the long carrying, with all its cost and all its difficulty and all its moments of genuine doubt about whether any of it was real or significant or worth continuing? Why all of it was, without exception, and without any of it being wasted, exactly what was needed? This understanding, arriving not as a philosophical conclusion but as a direct, felt, completely certain inner knowing, transforms the entire experience of the journey that produced it, not by changing what happened, but by revealing what it was always for. The Pleiadians close this transmission with something direct. The solar flash is not happening to light workers. It is happening with them, through them, in direct relationship with the development they have built and the frequencies they have been holding and the work they have been doing in the quiet, consistent, often invisible texture of their specific lives. The transformation it brings for light workers is not a gift given to passive recipients. It is the activation of what has always been genuinely there. The full expression of what the long development has genuinely built. The arrival, finally and completely, of the conditions in which what has been carried can be fully given. You have been carrying something real for a very long time, in conditions that were genuinely difficult. The solar flash is the moment when all of it finally, fully, and irrevocably lands. Take what resonates. Leave what does not. And trust yourself completely to know the difference. This content is offered for spiritual reflection, symbolic interpretation, and personal insight only. It is not presented as scientific fact, medical advice, or a prediction of real-world events. The narration in this video is generated using artificial intelligence voice technology. Please use your own discernment and personal judgment when engaging with this material.